This is a test of the City of Palatka audio system.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the City Commission Workshop on July 9th, 2024. Ms. Krantz, could you please read the notice?
Justin R. Campbell Senior, Will Jones, and Lucas Forum, we hereby notify this special call meeting of the Palatka City Commission is called to be held on July 9th at 9 a.m. at City Hall, 211 Second Street, Blackboard, 3177. The purpose of the workshop is to discuss the land swap with Riverfront Development Group pertaining to the St. John's River Center at 102 North First Street and 100 and 102 Second Reed Street. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Signed, Roberta M. Correa, Mayor.
Thank you. We're going to stand for the invocation by Pastor Mulberry and then the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Borum.
Good morning, everyone. Father, again, we thank you for this day, another day that you've allowed us to come together. Thank you for this session called Together for this opportunity, God. You know what's before us. You know what is to come. We thank you for the mindset, Lord, to do the right thing. We pray, God, that you will continue to bless the leadership of this diocese and, God, further this community and this city in a great way. We thank you now for all you're doing for us, certainly for what you're going to do. Continue to bless us with wisdom, understanding, insight, oversight, God, in the things that we undergird. For your glory, it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Krantz.
Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. She's present on Zoom for the record. Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present. Commissioner
Will Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Rufus Borum.
Present.
Mayor Robbie Correa.
Present.
We have a quorum in the chambers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Since this is a workshop on a particular topic, the request has been made to have public comments after the discussion, and I'm going to honor that request in for this situation. So we're going to move right on to the discussion. River Center land swap due diligence. Mr. Bell, are you going to start this off?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you take a look at the overview of the workshop, I'd like us to begin with an introduction from Mr. Douglas as well.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Charlie Douglas, 117 North Second Street, Palatka, Florida. Good morning, commissioners, Mr. Manager, Madam Attorney, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this morning to provide an update on our land swap project. As you remember, the city of Palatka and Blue Crab Development Group North entered into a contract in April for the land swap. I want to mention that I am the only owner of Blue Crab Development Group North, LLC, and it has been that way since the inception. Together, the city and our team have worked tirelessly every day to assemble the due diligence materials before you completely in the public view and with full transparency. We have carefully listened to you, your city manager, and members of our community, and we have incorporated your vision into the fabric of this project as a whole. We have acted in good faith to honor our agreement. Use this time wisely to diligently plan and mobilize so that on day one, we are able to deliver for our community. This morning, I'm excited to introduce our team members who will be at the helm at the River Center. First, Ms. Erin Hughes. Erin, will you stand to be recognized? Thank you. Ms. Erin is Director of Event Planning and Programming. Erin is a longtime advocate for the city. She is an integral reason for the success of the city's largest event, the Blue Crab Festival, since 2019. Erin is in charge of the master calendar and is making sure that the River Center is fully alive, morning, noon, and night. Since joining our team, Erin has begun building out a full calendar of events, and Mr. Cartwright has helped us populate the key city events for the upcoming year as well. Next, Miss Carla Flagg-Wright. Carla, will you please stand to be recognized? Carla is our Director of Cultural Affairs. She is one of our community's local best and brightest, with rich ties to the community, with an entrepreneurial mind, and led by a godly spirit. Carla's focus is making sure all walks of life and cultures who are in our community are represented at the River Center. Also, Carla will be coordinating with the Gathering Artists of Palatka for showcasing our local artists and introducing more of our kids to the arts. Truly, a rising tide must lift all boats. Next, Mr. Cowan Amai Abu. Please stand to be recognized. Cowan is our Director of Entrepreneurship, Education, and Enrichment. Cowan's focus is to help us lift up our young entrepreneurs in our community and resource them with the tools necessary to build a business here at home. Cowan will oversee the River Center's version of the Shark Tank. We will call it the Blue Crab Tank. That connects seed capital resources to our young entrepreneurs who have the ideas and motivation and hustle to greatly contribute to our GDP in Putnam County. Cowan also has demonstrated a strong publishing background with his magazine and will also help preserve the history of the pillars in our community. Other volunteers like Dr. Shane Purinton, Sam Carr, Vernon Myers, Sharon Porter, Ken and Janice Mahaffey, and Dr. Bernstein, I have all met with personally, and they're committed to continuing their presence and support of our mission to share Palatka's significant ecological history from the River Center. During public comment today, you'll hear from more of our team members who are mobilized and ready to go on day one. Mr. Ashton Hodge with the Palatka Coffee Company. The Palatka Coffee Company will be a Class A coffee shop inside the River Center. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. What was that,
Okay.
please?
I hit the wrong button. My apologies.
Okay.
It will be a Class A coffee shop with high-speed internet for people to work and linger. We want more foot traffic downtown. Mr. Ken Wise and Mrs. Audrey Wise. Please stand to be recognized. All right. Yeah. And one of the central components of what the River Center will contribute to our downtown and community as a whole is a vibrant music scene. Mr. and Mrs. Wise will be able to share more about that in just a few moments. Mr. R.T. Harrington with God's Country Outfitters. Mr. Harrington has already begun the work of refitting their existing guide boats for the River Center. Their boats are being made suitable for tourists who will be embarking from the River Center and venturing out into the other parts of the county. Mr. Harrington and his team will open the door for exploring the treasured history of our river, the Bartram Trail, and all other natural resources. On the structural side of the River Center building itself, we retain the services of a local Palatka-born engineer, Mr. Kerry Wilkinson. Mr. Kerry, would you please stand? Be recognized. Thank you. And at this time, if the video is available, we can show you some of Mr. Wilkinson's work. As this is playing, his team helped us deliver the conceptual drawings that you will see this morning. We spent countless hours with 4D engineering, designing the new courtyard and pergolas that will replace the old sand volleyball court area. The interior features of the River Center will include other highlights like a live aquarium that will be home to our local animals such as largemouth bass, blue crabs, brim, speckled perch, and maybe even a baby alligator. And Mr. Wilkinson's team helped us design a conceptual drawing for the Port Consolidated property we'll share in a few moments. Together, all of us have a goal that through this project, our actions will honor our community's past and look forward to a downtown reimagined, a river center that is truly alive. Morning, noon, and night, we'll be hustling and bustling with foot traffic and people who will support all the merchants of downtown. The River Center will be a beacon for an entertainment district that entertains and creates a family atmosphere that brings our community together. Movie nights on the lawn, maybe even a community ugly sweater contest, kids art and kids reading programs, and chalk art on the sidewalks. Importantly, we want opportunities for our youth and our young entrepreneurs. Let's give our youth the opportunities we didn't have. Let's teach lessons on how to throw a cast net, how to fish, tie knots, along with boating and sailing lessons. A youth business fair, because we know that accessibility creates opportunity. We want to show that the voices of our students matter. We value what they have to say, and we are willing to reach them where they are. Included inside the River Center will be a multifunctional studio for radio and podcast that provides a platform for locals and visitors alike to come in and learn about all the happenings in town. And with esteemed host of our Bass Capital Radio podcast, Ms. Lara Wallace, continue capturing the incredible stories of our citizens that represent the fabric of our shared history. The multifunctional studio will also double as a television studio and also a recording studio for local up-and-coming bands. Ecotourism also is integral to the River Center. We are creating opportunities that leverage one of our greatest assets, the St. Johns River, and provide more water access with boats, tours down the river to Bear Island as an example, or the Ocklawaha. Let's too bring back the boat races, the sailing regattas and rowing competitions, maybe even seaplane fly-ins and events that support our municipal airport as well. Let's get the most out of our Trail Town designation and other sports tourism events and highlight the connectedness of the 310 miles of our St. Johns River. Last month, I flew to Norfolk, Virginia to spend the day with Tidewater Wooden Boat Workshop. And through the building of wooden boats and other nautical activities, youth learn STEM and life skills such as teamwork, communication skills, planning and organization, and problem solving. All of the youth programs are offered at no cost to families. And we are in talks with them now about implementing a similar program here. My hope is to ultimately provide a career pathway to the shipbuilding jobs that are already here in town and pay high wages. A focus on naval architecture and marine construction brings us back to our roots, all the way back to the 1700s, to Dennis Roll, who settled near San Mateo and had shipping lanes in the 1700s, shipping lanes down into the Caribbean, and even shipped turpentine to England. Bringing shipping back to Putnam County will be a focus at the River Center. Earth-given juices, sorrel, sea moss, I was introduced to by Mr. Big Homie, and Yupon Holly Tea, the Yupon brothers who are in Crescent City, are all products here in Putnam County that we can ship. Let's also involve our senior citizens with yoga, aerobics, and line dancing. In short, the River Center will be a true catalyst for change. Here on this side of the street, the Port Consolidated property. Our team has also spent a considerable amount of time working on conceptual drawings for the existing Port Consolidated property and how it can best be used for the city's purpose. Do we have those conceptual drawings to pass out? So what you're seeing here is a conceptual drawing that is overlaid with the Port Consolidated building that is already on site. The Port Consolidated building and property would provide the city a state-of-the-art meeting room. A meeting room that would incorporate technological advancements would consider commissioner and staff safety, and a building that rises up to welcome people to Palatka. Mr. John Hodge, who is a local artist, we commissioned his services for a rendering of what the outside of the building could look like. There are myriad other options here at the Port Consolidated property, such as EV charging stations, parking access to accommodate the public during festivals, or a pedestrian bridge that would connect the north and south historic districts. An added benefit is that there is an existing income stream already in place until you decide you wanted to commence improvements. The timing is important. Tomorrow, FDOT is hosting a town hall here at City Hall to discuss millions of dollars that will be deployed just for Reed Street. I would encourage the city, and I'm willing to help be an advocate alongside you, to support something grand that spans across Reed Street and welcomes people into our city. A final note on our continuing efforts to lift all boats. I'm very close to terms on another project on the north side that will unify the River Center with an 11th Street commercial corridor project that will focus on a water feature and swimming opportunities for all of our citizens. Remember back to the days of the Ravine Garden swimming pool and what that feature meant for our community as a whole. There will be more details to come in the next few days. Next, Mr. Kevin Sharbaugh will highlight the environmental portion of the due diligence. And after Mr. Sharbaugh, Ms. Rhonda Odom, in her personal capacity as a CPA, will speak to the perpetual valuation analysis of the River Center requested from the last CRA meeting. We have poured our heart and soul and resources into making this project a success for our community. I have spent countless hours and somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 already over the last 6 months to uphold my commitment to you that on day one, we will deliver. Together, the city will transform, the city will revitalize, and the city will leave behind a profound legacy that will be celebrated for generations to come. In the immortal words of James Weldon Johnson, let us sing a song full of hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. A new day has begun at the 100 block and here in Palatka. Just like the rising sun, we rise today in the shared hope and vision for our future, for economic development that will sustain us, for our best and brightest who will remain with us, and for a new day that unites all voices in our community. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Sharbaugh. I am with Mr. Douglas, work at Douglas Law Firm, and I'm just going to give you a very brief statement with regard to the ongoing environmental assessment and cleanup that's happening on the Port Consolidated property. As you may or may not know, people in the community may not know, there was, back in 1998, there was identified that there was some form of a contamination occurred at Port Consolidated when they had they had up to 7 fuel tanks in the ground at that time. It ended up becoming qualified for a state program called the Petroleum Liability and Restoration Insurance Program. And what ended up happening was back in 2009, tanks 1 through 5 were removed. At that time, they also removed 362 tons of soil. And then in 2023, the remaining 2 tanks were removed. No soil was removed at that time. They did a number of borings, both for soil samples as well as water, groundwater samples. And they have recently filed a report with the state that they know there are no conditions requiring additional soil removal. And they are basically about ready to move into the remediation phase of dealing with some groundwater specs that are just a little bit above their contamination cleanup targets. This was a program, it's currently being dealt with by Montrose Environmental Solutions. They were contracted to do this work by a previous owner of the property. The state is funding it all. There's additional funds available beyond what they've actually contracted to do to reach a target level of what we call RMO1, which is basically when they're done, you could drink the water out of the ground. In the event that you needed or they needed to change that target level to be less restrictive, they could, but they are fully confident that they will reach that target goal for their final closeout. That being said, I spoke with Mr. Lee Ford, who's their head engineer this morning, just to verify that there is no issues at hand. Everything's proceeding exactly as they anticipated and planned. And in the event that the city decided they wanted to move forward almost immediately with some kind of actual development, just so long as it was in conjunction with them, in communication with them, they can basically accommodate any kind of development that the city wanted to do, even if it were to occur immediately. So,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Mr. Douglas, is your presentation concluded?
There will be one more from our presentation, Ms. Rhonda Odom, about the perpetual evaluation.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rhonda Odom. I was asked by Mr. Douglas to provide an independent analysis of the perpetual evaluation of the St. Johns River Center located at 102 North First Street for the purposes of this possible land swap. Just a quick history of my background to tell you what makes me qualified to provide this analysis. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting from Mississippi State University. I have a master's degree in professional accounting from the University of Florida. I am a certified public accountant. I've worked for the Putnam County School District since January of 1996 and became the CFO in March of 2008. I have a tax business on the side where I do personal income taxes for several hundred individuals actually, and some with self-employed businesses and multiple state returns because I have people in several states that I do taxes for. I do business LLC partnership returns with assets in the millions. I do monthly financials for some not-for-profits as well as some local and out-of-state businesses, and I file their payroll taxes and their quarterlies as well as providing their W-2s and 1099s. My husband and I own several rentals in Mississippi and in Florida. So what I did is I utilized the present value and invest in evaluating the investment value of the River Center to determine the current value of a stream of 20 years worth of income. I looked at the actual stream that was provided by the city for the fiscal years ending September 30th, 2019 through May 21st of 2024 for a total of 5.67 years total. I also tried to normalize that income because 2.5 years of that was considered during the COVID years, and we needed to try to normalize that. I also looked at a financial analysis of trying to maximize the revenues of for a 20-year time period by utilizing things like merchandise sales, ticket sales, sponsors, seeking out those possible grants from the Tourism Development Council, having event rentals for 3-day weekends for all 52 weeks of the year and 11 holidays at $800 per day, so a total of 167 days. I considered the proposed maximized estimated annual revenues at $247,950, which is actually a 2,800% increase in the revenue over the current highest year of actual normalized revenues of $8,765 that were provided to me. I pulled records off of the city commission meetings as some of the backup that was provided there. And of course, with maximizing revenue like that, you'll have additional expenditures that come into play with that level of possible income. There would be some one-time expenses like increasing tables, chair and linen inventory, purchasing chair covers in various colors, increasing the high top tables and linens, and purchasing a commercial grade sound system. You would also need some additional capital improvements, which should be a one-time initial expense. Things like increasing the restroom capacity, initial landscaping, additional lighting on the rooftop and lobby areas for events and rentals, and possibly even increasing storage capacity so that you could store the tables and chairs, things like that. There's also monthly increased expenses like utilities, security, paper goods, landscaping, annual expenses like adding, if at this level, you would probably need to add a full-time person and maybe even a couple of part-time people if you actually were able to utilize 167 events throughout the year. To maximize that revenue, you'd probably need to purchase additional theme decor, add alcohol services through a third-party sponsor, musical entertainment, food, swag, merchandise, additional police supervision during the events that had the alcohol, and maintain a focused marketing plan. So a lot goes into preparing a perpetual evaluation based on varying levels of enterprise. So I provided in a handout that you all have, I believe, an income stream with related expenses and continuing on in the current mode. Your actual revenue for the last 5.67 years had an annual average of $3,436. So doing an actual 20-year stream at that level of income and using a discount rate of 5%, which is your required rate of return based on your investment, that provides a present value of that actual level of $42,820. By normalizing that actual revenue for COVID years, bumping the income up for 2.5 years, assuming it would have been more if COVID had not been present during that time period. The normalized revenue for that last 5.67 years was $5,533. So the cash flow analysis for that dollar amount with the same 20 years and the 5% discount rate is a present value of $68,829. Your actual yearly operational expenses were an actual average of $34,164 for that same 5.67 years. There were some high maintenance costs in fiscal year 2023 for mold remediation and roof repairs. So the present value for that same level of expenditures for 20-year period at a discount rate of 5 is a present value of $425,759 outlay over the next 20 years. Maintaining the status quo as it is now would be a significant drain on the resources of the city in its current underutilized status. By trying to uplift and promote the River Center and maximize possible revenue with a projected annual income stream, revenue stream of $247,950 a year, a cash flow analysis at that level of income for the next 20 years, based on a discount rate of 5%, provides a present value of $3,090,000. Along with that comes the projected expenses at that level of income at an estimation of $266,273 per year. Taking that to a present value level over 20 years at a 5% discount rate is $3,318,350. That does not take into account the initial outlay of funds to prepare the River Center for its maximum potential. Every scenario I looked at, your actual revenue, your normalized revenue, and your maximized revenue provided an overall negative present value when expenses are factored in and showed itself as unprofitable. Conducting a 20-year present value analysis has a lot of what ifs and estimations within it. No one can truly predict what will occur in our community or in the world over the next 20 years. So forecasting and financial models like present value help provide our best guess scenario. My evaluation is completely independent as I have no financial ties to the Blue Crab Development Group or to the city of Palatka. Putnam County is my home and has been for 28.5 years. My husband and I have raised 4 children here, with 3 of them still currently living and working in Putnam, and we have 10 grandchildren here. 9 are currently in the Putnam County school system and 1 being only 3. So as an independent evaluator and involved citizen, and looking at the results of my financial analysis, I believe the advantage for the city and for the community is to complete your due diligence and to engage in the proposed land swap. The development group will elevate the facility, keep it open to the public, and breathe new life into it. The city will eliminate a major cash drain on its budget, not have to encounter the outlay of funds to get the center prepared for a maximized revenue stream, and will eliminate risk associated with the utilization of the center. So to me, the proposed land swap deal makes sound business sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Presentations are complete. Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Commissioner Campbell, any thoughts, discussion?
Let's hear the thoughts and, I mean, the introductions was nice.
I might open, at least before we really get into discussion, open the floor to public comment, because there are several public comments cards here. Ms. Kitchens?
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. For a full disclosure, I have no monetary interest or agreements with Charlie Douglas in any way, shape, or form. I just know him, known him over the years. I just heard the accountant's report, and so did you. You're talking about a negative outlay if you keep the river center. If you go along with this land swap, it's a win-win. The city will get up to 1 penny less than $1 million cash money in the hand, along with the Rock Oil Company property that adjoins City Hall. Why is that a win for the city? Because the city will have the cash money, number one, to do whatever they want with. And number two, they will have the property, you all will have the property adjoining City Hall that gives you the land you need to expand City Hall and keep it downtown. Popular belief of all the citizens who have spoken, we want City Hall to stay downtown where it is. You all in previous commissions have continually said, oh, we don't have any room to expand. We got to move, move, move. You get the Rock property, you got room to expand, and you got extra cash money. And if you don't need to expand, you have existing buildings that you can move some city offices into. The other thing is there's an investigation going on to a certain city employer. Do not let that be used as a weapon against Charlie Douglas. Whatever that certain city employee did, it's between him and you. If first of all, the investigation hasn't started yet. If it does, and the investigator finds that he's liable for something, then you all get with your city attorney, and in all probability, he will be taken to court. A judge will declare his innocence or criminal activity. That's a separate issue. It has nothing to do with Douglas. Whether or not that employee dealt with Douglas is neither here nor there. Douglas isn't benefiting from what the employee did. So do not let the employee's investigation be used as a weapon to stop Charlie Douglas's project. You need to judge Douglas's project on its own merit. And I can tell you right here and now, for whatever my word is worth to anybody, Douglas is not a criminal. He is not a crook. He is honest. If something was going on with a city employee, Douglas had nothing to do with it. So do not let that be used as a weapon against Charlie, which I believe that a certain local developer who has a very vested interest in getting the river property will try to use. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Mr. Douglas has shown that what he plans to do with that property, it's the highest and best use for it. It's exactly what Georgia Pacific intended for it to do when they went into a deal with the city. So I would advise you to please agree don't just go ahead and go through with the contract. When August comes up, the deadline, I would ask you to approve Charlie Douglas getting the property. It's a win-win for everybody. Douglas is putting a lot of money and effort in it. Why? He really does care about the city. He's not here to just make money and haul buggy out of town. He really does care about the city. He's cared about it all of his life. I've known him since he was a little kid. So please think about the win-win for the city. Don't let the red herring of the certain city employees investigation, including the city manager's investigation. He's innocent, nothing's been found guilty. Judge Douglas's project on its own merit. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Feivelman, please give your name and address for the record, and time is limited to 3 minutes or so.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council, City. Thank you very much. I'm Richard Feivelman. My address is 110 Lakeshore Terrace. I'm co-owner with my wife at Bell Shops Corner in the 100 building. We released the property from Blue Crab Development, so there's a connection there. But I just want to let you know that one of the things I haven't heard so far today is that beyond all the amazing planning that the Douglas and Blue Crab Group have done, is the advantage that the city's going to see from other businesses coming in here, entertainment, restaurants, because of the attraction of what they are planning. I would like you to know that we at Bell Shops are in full support of the project, and we invite people to come into this community and build their businesses and entertainment facilities. And I think there's a great advantage there to the city and the entire county and all the business people in the room. So that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Roth?
Good morning, Zach Roth, 8818 Goodby's Executive Drive, Jacksonville. I'm here not to talk about the merits. I think the merits actually look fantastic. I have a concern from a legal perspective about kind of a box that needs to be checked before this can happen. I've passed out a statute, which is 163.380 Florida statutes. It has to do with disposing of property in a CRA like this is. And just a little background about myself. I'm a board certified real estate attorney and also the city attorney for 2 separate municipalities in Northeast Florida. The concern is, if you look at 3A, which I've highlighted, prior to disposing of it, which includes going under contract, a municipality is required to publish notice in the newspaper that the project is being considered and to accept proposals. I think there's a decent legal argument that the contract, without doing so, is void and could be subject to a challenge from a third party in the future. Given that you're at the place where you can cancel under the due diligence period, you can easily cancel, do the notice, accept the bid and go back under contract. It probably wouldn't even cost you any time, but it would allow you to check this box to avoid a potential challenge from someone else in the future. So I just wanted to raise that because I've been paying attention to what's happening and saw that as a concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
So under 3A, you're required to publish in the newspaper that you're accepting proposals for a project to dispose of property within the CRA. So what you could do is cancel the contract, publish the notice, accept the proposals. There's nothing that stops you from entering into the exact same contract as soon as you've met that 30-day publishing requirement. But it allows you to check that box. So if there's a third party in the future that has a concern, they don't hold the deal up.
Thank you. Ms. Wise?
Good morning. I stood in the same spot.
Excuse
My
me.
name is Audrey Wise, 1610 Edgemoor Street. I stood before you in April with a comment stating, I don't know Charlie like that. When he presented his proposal, and I asked, what were you going to do? And I missed their initial presentation. After that meeting, Charlie as well as Jeremy came and gave me the projection of what they were going to do. And they asked to meet with me so I can see the presentation, the whole gambit. I did that. The first thing I said to Charlie as well to Jeremy is that, you guys got the best deal out of this. You know that, right? And he said to me, I said, let's call it for what it is. You got the best deal here. From what I see, you got the best deal. And we start talking, and Charlie started to tell me who Charlie was and what the project was and how it could be inclusive. My biggest concern was, where does this reflect people like me, the other part of this town? How are we going to buy into that? And he solicited my ideas and my help, as well as with my husband, who is Mr. Davis and not Mr. Wise. So we start dialogue, and I have to say that my concern was to bring entertainment, food, whatever into Palatka, so it could be a more vibrant situation where I don't have to go to Jacksonville or St. Augustine to get entertainment. That was my objective and my purpose. So our vision was to mirror the future with the past. And we thought in that pergola area that what we would do is have a walk of fame for Palatka. Starting from the historical events to those who paved the way here in Palatka, from Mr. Sessions, from James A. Long, Mary Jane Lawson, Collier Blocker Junior College. Those stones would have those pillars of our community names written on it with their dates. So as the city starts to progress in the area of the historic area, that kiosks that would be placed throughout, including Central Academy, those things that people can walk or see those names and that historical value that would reflect that we are part of Palatka also. And that I also said to Charlie and Jeremy, 100 years from now, what will they say about you? Are you going to be a gatekeeper, keeping the things the way they are? Or are you going to be the person to build the bridge to where it can be? That is my objective, my only objective, to be inclusive and to enhance Palatka in more of a entertainment situation, food as well, definitely food, and having the entertainment. We can be that person. I know my time is up, but I just have to stress, this is our chance to be that next person, that next town. We don't want to be a St. Augustine. We definitely don't want to be Green Cove. We definitely don't want to be Jacksonville. We could be unique in our own way without losing who we are, but embracing the future. And if and when you decide to accept or reject, do understand that change is going to happen. We could be the driver of that change, or we could let that change drive us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis? See, I got that right. Okay.
He is a wise man.
Thank you. Are there any additional public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. Discussion?
Madam Mayor, I had proposed a portion of this to include a discussion of the contract by the city attorney, if that's at the pleasure of the commission.
Okay, Ms. West, sorry, we'll get back to you, Commissioner Campbell.
Sure. As the commissioners know, we are under a due diligence period. I took the liberty, back when this contract was first entered into, to create a due diligence punch list. As you may know, due diligence is a critical stage in a commercial real estate acquisition. And the punch list basically identified the issues that the city, as the buyer in this particular contract, is tasked with examining prior to the termination of that due diligence period. The termination of the due diligence period is August 13th. If you are going to extend it, you need to provide written notice for a request of that extension in writing 10 days prior, so August 3rd. So we're up against some tight deadlines here in order for you to make a decision on how to move forward. As part of the due diligence process, you can see that I have multiple binders here. These are all of the documents that I have been working with to assemble, thanks to Mr. Douglas and his team. They ran the gamut from your typical inspections and appraisals to things that were more unique to this piece of real property, the court consolidated property, for example, the environmental reports, to ensure that we were making sure that we had sufficient notice as to what exactly the contamination procedures were and where things stood currently. So you got that report from Mr. Sharbaugh. Probably some of the most critical parts of the due diligence period include the appraisal reports, which we just received yesterday. The River Center appraised in at 1.6 million. The Port Consolidated property appraised in at 1.325 million. So you have a differential there. The reason that's important is because that difference is what is going to dictate, potentially, it's always open up to negotiation, your purchase price here for both of the parties. So as you know, this was capped off at $999,000, just shy of $1 million. But this, the appraisals, the differential in value is going to dictate what that actual purchase price is going to be. So that's a really critical piece of information that we have in hand. You do have the appraisals in hand electronically, and you should have hard copies as well. And I have those available for your inspection too. Just to reiterate, the due diligence is basically within our sole discretion as the city. We have to determine whether this acquisition is suitable and in our best interest. It is in our sole discretion. And this is it. If you choose to extend, that's fine. But at the end of the due diligence period, we are under contract to proceed with closing. Okay, so I just wanted to explain what due diligence was and the significant amount of documents that we've compiled to adhere to that due diligence requirement and make sure that we have everything covered. I'm happy to take any questions.
I just have a quick, based on the public comment in the document handed out, is that something that we should address or not?
Yes, I do need to look into that. With the statute that I have been traveling under is Florida Statute 125.35. And as you can see from the Attorney General opinion issued by Ashley Moody, that section applies only to the disposition of county property, and it specifically excludes municipal property absent a charter provision. I have reviewed our charter. It doesn't have a provision that dictates how to dispose of municipal property. So it's left within the discretion of the municipality's governing body, provided that it is in the best interest, once again, in the municipality. So I need to compare these two statutes and also look at the Attorney General opinions to see if there's anything on par with this opinion that would apply to the particular statute. But there are some questions there that I will need to address.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions in Ms. West?
Ms. West, I have a question. And it's in reference to this statute as well. As you are our city attorney, and this is a deal that it's going to set a precedence, first of all. And my question is, for the city side, as we do our due diligence, and I want to point out that I was absent in the first negotiation and the signing of a contract, which I did not know that we were already in a contract. I just thought we were in that period until recently. So I want to disclose that. But I want to ask you this. Did you solicit any assistance from a real estate attorney in this transaction? Or did you, as our city attorney, handle everything?
No, I've been handling this. I have extensive experience with real estate transactions and commercial transactions. So this is a due diligence punch list on a commercial transaction that I pulled together on April 23rd. I didn't do it all by myself. I did solicit to all the department heads within the city. I compiled my punch list and asked for everyone else to weigh in as well, because there are multiple facets here. There's the financial considerations that Ms. Cardy weighed in on. There's other considerations for economic development that our city manager weighed in on. And so I solicited the input from all the department heads of the city in order to proceed comprehensively with the due diligence punch list.
But more particularly, a real estate attorney is what I'm asking you.
Did I consult with a board certified real estate attorney? No, I based it upon my decades of experience dealing with real estate matters.
Any further questions? Commissioner Jones?
I ran it.
Commissioner Campbell, back to you.
Madam Mayor, you asked the question that I had with regards to the public comment, and the attorney has answered the question, and I'll wait for a more proper response because I know she was just provided with this information, so I would not want her to haste to a decision. I will give her the ability to research.
Thank you. Commissioner Barr?
Well, just two things. Well, one is the clause that we have to try and work through as it relates to that. So you say you don't see any issue with this at all?
No, that is not what I said. I would like the opportunity to further examine and compare it with the statute that I've been traveling under for disposal of surplus property by the city.
So with that being said, then that it appears that we, with the due diligence period about to end, that means that it's a potential that we need to have to, we're gonna have to do an extension.
It is possible, Commissioner Borum. I do need to examine this further in order to properly advise the city moving forward.
So you think you have enough time between now and
Well-
the time, August 3rd is the near date. August 3rd is the near date and August 13th is the final date. So I'm just saying, while we're here, don't need time crunches.
Right.
If we need time, we, because whether the transaction happened or not within the time period, the thing is not gonna be redone or redeveloped within. So the city need the proper time in order to make this stuff happen. I don't want to see nothing happening within, just haphazardly, and you're missing, if you potentially miss things, I think time is needed. That's the one thing. And then we have, so what did we say about the asbestos and any asbestos, was that part?
We had a full inspection, and let me just address the point you just made. So this is a workshop, so you cannot take any action at this particular workshop. However, if you have had an opportunity to review the agenda for this Thursday city commission meeting, I am also briefing you. So in the event you want to take action for the extension request of the due diligence period, you will have the opportunity at that time, and I should have more information for you at that time, Commissioner Borum, so we can all make an informed decision.
Understanding that we can't make any decisions, but we're able to have the discussion. So can we bring up the consideration and ask the party if they would be considerate of if we need to do that? So I think it doesn't stop us from having the conversation if we don't have it solely. I think as much as we can hammer out in this setting will alleviate that decision as we get to it on Thursday. So
Mr. Douglas, would you be open if in fact this is something we're required to do? Would you be open to an extension?
Yes, Mayor, we view this as a win-win for the city and for the downtown redevelopment as a whole. And we want the city to feel completely comfortable and that this is a great project. There's additional time that's needed, of course, we'll be amenable to that. Usually with extensions of due diligence, there would be a reason for additional due diligence items to come through. We have tried very hard to meet the deadlines already in the due diligence. And we believe that we have met that. But yes, we're here to help and support the city in its evaluation.
Thank you. Commissioner McCaskill, do you have any comments or
Well,
questions?
Yeah, my questions were actually answered. I'm glad that Commissioner Campbell asked Douglas that if they would be friendly to an extension to the due diligence period, because I want to make sure that our attorney has time and she's not crunching. Commissioner Boren brought that up to actually consult with our real estate attorney and compare these two statutes. So those were my two concerns and questions, and they were answered. So I'm good.
Probably staff feed jumping too.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any information, questions, concerns?
Well, I
ahead.
know Commissioner Campbell had mentioned something before about how we got to this point in terms of how this was presented to the city, who brought it forth, who was the individual who brought this forth to the city, because there was no approach from the city to, or vice versa. So we just want to know how we got to where we are as it relates to this particular thing. And I don't know if that was ever answered. He asked that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. And I believe that Mr. Douglas was prepared to speak to that as well.
Yes, sir, Commissioner, and that is something that Commissioner Campbell had asked in the initial public meeting regarding this project, that the very first comments in the second meeting, I addressed Mr. Campbell, and that was, how did we get here? And we got here when a few years back and we moved into the brick building across the street. My office happens to sit on the side looking out toward the River Center. So every day as I'm sitting at my desk, I look out the window and I see the River Center not being used as an underutilized asset, that if it's fully activated and fully alive, morning, noon, and night, it can be a huge benefit to the overall redevelopment of downtown.
Any further questions? Okay. Mr. Bell, were you going to say something? Okay.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So some of the considerations that you might want to take into account, which under item 2 are the commission's right to negotiate some of the terms and issues that have been raised throughout this process with due diligence. So you might want to take a look at whether or not a first right of refusal for repurchase is something that you're interested in. Some of the other questions that were raised were beyond the gap between the values of the two properties, which the city attorney pointed out was approximately 275,000, whether or not that's adequate, or if you wanted to negotiate around those terms that are set based on the appraisals of the properties. Another item is city access to the property and whether or not the city would have continued access for programming or events, and what does that look like? That's not described in this agreement. As it stands now, the agreement simply illustrates the swap between the two properties, but it does not discuss whether or not the city would have access to any programming. And I believe from the presentation that the Douglas firm is anticipating that the city would do programming and have access, but that's not clarified, exactly spelled out. And then another factor that was discussed was overall public access, the right to access, which you have as a city-owned facility versus a privately owned facility. What are the parameters around that? So those are elements around which, with the direction from the commission, can be negotiated based on your preferences or not. And the final thing I would say is that just to clarify, if the city does not feel that this is an appropriate move to take, notwithstanding the legal concerns that were raised, you do still have the right to cancel the contract and move in a different direction. The last thing that I would say is one of the issues that wasn't addressed that I know commissioners have raised was what is the difference if we leased out the property? And I believe Mr. Douglas is prepared to speak to that as well, but I don't think that was addressed yet.
Okay.
So-
Mr. Douglas, do you want to speak to that before we really discuss?
Sure. Yes, Mayor. The city manager had a question a little while back about any interest in a potential lease hold estate. And the reason that creates some complexity is because of the overall vision of a fully connected 100 block. So the amount of resources that would go in for the capital improvements at the River Center and how it connects, and you saw the video with the courtyard and the pergola and the existing historic building at the 100 block, it would be difficult to be able to, the benefit is in the assemblage. And then at the end of a lease term, that disassemblage would be extremely difficult. So that's the reason why the purchase option and the land swap is a better path forward than a leasehold. And it also helps the city not being a landlord and all the obligations that come with being a landlord. And the building's existing state, the roof is still leaking as we speak. That obviously we would take care of, but the city would not be on the hook, so to speak, for all the obligations that are required from a landlord.
And at this point, based on these appraisals, the value is higher of that property. Therefore, the tax revenue that can be obtained by the city is also higher than taking another property off the tax rolls. And that's another big factor that the city has to consider, the tax revenue.
Well, actually, we taking one off,
But they're
put
not
one
equal,
on, same.
but they're not equal in value. One's a higher value. So we're not trading evenly. Yes, I understand that.
That's right.
I did say that.
You did say that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any further discussions based on Mr. Bell's points, as in the offer itself?
Yeah. I have, in the best interest of the city, I have to actually speak on the values. And if I was buying a house or buying a car, I would try to negotiate the price. So what I see here, I haven't seen a negotiation, I've seen an offer, and it's going to be an acceptance. Charlie, with all due respect to you, Jeremy, your firm, and everybody else in here, great renderings. I like what I see. I like it's vibrant. I think that would be great for the city of Palatka coming across that bridge, seeing that. I do have concerns with the value of what the city actually is going to get in return. Port Consolidated was a building that was offered to the city, and I think people have a right to know. It was offered to the city some time ago for a lower price. And the city at that time basically said, no, we don't want or need that property. Question is now, why do we want it or need it? We have the annex and it's underutilized. What are we gonna do with it? City manager, staff, commission. What are we gonna do with Port Consolidated if we were to buy it? What is it gonna cost us? Count up the cost? That's what we have to do. And I'm not saying I'm for or against the sale right now as it is, other than we need to be transparent on what we're doing, why we're doing it, and does it make sense? So, just a statement that it's on my conscience just to say it, and there are people. I've had several phone calls both ways. I've talked to the Douglas firm, and I believe them, and I'm believing what they stand for. But there's also another side. And so the side of people are concerned, are they going to have access to that building the way they have access now? Are they going to be able to go in and utilize it for venues? They may want wedding receptions, socials, whatever that we offer currently at City at a pretty low rate. Are you going to be able to do the same? Or is it going to be something exclusive? And the money that you guys are going to put in there, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be as cheap as the city provides right now. Secondly, we talk about revenue that the city have had or lacked of during the COVID time, which everything was closed down. We found out about the mold and we had to do remediation during that time. So we put a cost in where we did the inside of that building. And that building was shut down for some time. So we wasn't afforded the opportunity to do any programming. I'm really concerned, and again, disclosure at this workshop, that our community affairs work more with the firm, with their projects and what could be, versus working with doing what they should have been doing for the public. And that is, I guess, our mismanagement of that building. So this is just full disclosure, and it is a workshop, but these are things that we need to think about. And why didn't we have any forecasting on the city side to do any of these great things? Why? Why haven't we? Why haven't we even thought about it? We don't go to these great lengths, or we haven't. And we see how the River Center will transform. How would that Port Consolidated building transform? Because the rest of the Palatka have to use that. We, as a commission, have to use that. We have a building across the street that is unbuilt out to its full potential. So, as you just mentioned, Ms. Marion, you made a great point. Another building will go on the tax record, but then we'll be taking one off again. So we're not really gaining in that aspect. Again, I wasn't here in the first meeting when the contract was signed. I would have probably said the same things at that time. And I'm not going to miss the opportunity to at least bring out this point. Whichever way it goes, again, I support what I see. But I don't want to have another building that we're going to tax the taxpayers and we don't have a plan for. That should be considered in what we're going to do about this land swap as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you. A lot of valid points, Commissioner Jones. I think the city certainly has to determine whether we're going to do something with that building personally, whether we want to keep leasing it in the interim. It does have funds coming in, at least for the short term, and whether we turn around and sell it, frankly. There are several options, but the city does have to figure out what they want to do if the swap were to occur, which we don't know yet. Can our community affairs department staff and have events there as well as Jenkins, I don't think we frankly have the resources to do what Mr. Douglas is proposing at the River Center or even anywhere near that. We don't have staff resources to do that, I don't believe. We have to also program at Jenkins. Where are all these folks coming from that are going to set all this up and do this? But Commissioner Campbell, go ahead. You look like you want to talk.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
I can speak if you want.
Okay, Commissioner McCaskill.
I want
Sorry.
to, if you want to have time, Commissioner Campbell, I can speak now, or I can wait until after you speak.
What would you like to do?
Feel free to speak.
Okay. Commissioner Jones, I thank you for bringing up those valid points. It's good to see that our community affairs did have enough time to help them out, and it looks like they did a really good job. One of the things I do have to say, we did give them the opportunity to show due diligence, and it looks like they have. You know, our shortcomings and shortfalls, the burden is on us. If the city didn't do such a good job as the Douglas firm has. I do want to keep I want our team to keep in mind that he did use a financial advisor to conduct an independent analysis, and I want us to make sure that we are with her results and her analysis and her recommendations, that we consider those, because we are in the middle of having some independent investigations done, and we want to make sure that whatever findings those are, we want to kind of make sure that we consider their recommendations and their findings. In other words, he had an independent analysis conducted with a financial advisor, Ms. Odom. She provided an analysis of her findings and recommendations. I want us to respect those, because at this time, we have 2 independent investigations going on, and whatever findings they come back with, I want us to make sure that we follow the same protocol, that whatever findings they find, that we respect and consider those. I hope everybody's understanding. I see some confusion on y'all's faces. Anyway, with that being said, although we haven't shown or done a good job with this building as far as programming and putting efforts in, that burden falls on us. They've done a good job in this process, and I think us as a city, with you bringing up these concerns, we need to take action and see what we need to do about that. We may not have all of the resources that Charlie Douglas and those have, but we do have employees and we do have resources. And if they had the time and effort to put in to support them and help them, what have they been doing for us? Well, on what time? When they had time? Was it during the time that we give them? Those are just my questions. If they did a good job and all this time helping them, where's the time that they spent to make sure that we had some programs going on? But good job. And I like what I see.
I have some concerns with what I'm hearing, and I know this is not a debate, but I don't think that there was anything going on in that facility that warranted our staff to be working with them that was not something that was not properly vetted by the city, which would have made our staff have to work with anyone who gets that facility. Now, if there is something that we do not know, or that I do not know, I would like to be brought to the forefront. But as I sit back and I see those that may have done any work, it was on the strength of that building being rented at that present time, which makes our staff have to work with it, be it Charlie, be it me, or be it you. So I want us to be mindful of how we word things, because again, we know that our words take fire and they go out. So I don't want it to appear as if our staff is solely dedicated working with them on our time. That's my first thing. With lack of resources, I want us to be mindful of how we talk about that as well. The reason that it appears because we have not entertained maximizing the potential of the building. And we often say, as we sit on this dais, that we wanted to get out of the building rental business anyway. So the opportunity for us to do so is now here. We have someone who is vested in this community, vested in this city, that wants to do something. Oftentimes we say people sit back and they don't want to do anything, but now we have someone who steps up. We're beginning to question, and that's fine. There are things that we should take in consideration as we sit behind this dais and as we move forth in any dealings that we do. We want to make sure that it's in the best interest of not only this community, but we want to make sure it's in the best interest of individuals that sit here who they have entrusted. And when I say that, it's not self-serving, it's to make sure that we hold ourselves to a standard that we don't negate or we don't block progression. We should be the ones who promote progression. So I want us to be mindful as we begin to have these conversations. Again, just because the contract has been signed, it's not final. And there's a lot of things that we do need to take in consideration. And one thing that we have not taken in consideration as we sit here is, what are we going to do from the city's perspective? So as we sit here and we talk about what Mr. Douglas and his team have brought before us, I think we now on our end need to begin to have conversations and deliberations as to what we want to see happen, because again, they want what we have. We don't want what they have at this present time. So let's be mindful that this is not a one-way street. This is a two-way street. And as we begin to execute or move forward with this, now it's time for us to activate to see what it is that we want to do from our end. So this is not a blame game. This is an opportunity for us to sit down and really take in consideration what is in the best interest of the city of Palatka.
And with that said, what is in the best interest of the city of Palatka, and what does that discussion look like? This is what this workshop is about, so we can.
The discussion of this workshop was about the land swap. We need to set up a meeting to talk amongst ourselves about what it is that we want to have, because everyone that sits under the sound of my voice is in favor of this land swap. And I'm not opposed to that, but what we really need to sit down and is really vet, which means staff is going to have to present to us. And we're going to have to give staff, if there's a desire for us to maintain where we are and do something different, that's a conversation that we must have amongst ourselves. If I believe that I'm correct, this meeting was to talk about the land swap and the due diligence and all of that kind of stuff. It wasn't for us to sit here and talk about what the city wanted to do with it. And I believe that there was some conversations, and I believe it came from Commissioner Jones that in previous meetings that he wanted to see some renderings of what was, or some potential programming that could have been. And again, we talk about things when they're hot, and when they're no longer hot, we kind of put them on the back burner until it's hot again. So in order for us to be at the forefront of this conversation, it's essential for us to do what we need to do and no longer hold these people who we know already are in support, so that we can go on about our merry day and then continue to do our various works.
No disagreement, but we also have a short time period where we have to decide whether we want to request another extension.
We have a short time period, and Mr. Douglas has already stated that he is willing to give it to us if we need to have it
If we
happen.
need it, but we've also had a length of time that this has been in place that we could have done
Fair.
that.
With
We
all
need to
due
do that.
response, the past is the past. We can only move forward. So I put it on us to do what we need to do. So that's something that between staff and this commission that we need to make happen. Again, these lovely people who sit under the sound of my voice right now, we all have things to do. We know what they want, but again, it's the city's responsibility to do what we've asked them to do.
If I may, right quick, I know
Yes,
you.
Ms. McCaskill. go ahead.
I am on board with Commissioner Campbell. That is a question that Mrs. Wise asked of us when we went into this agreement. So it kind of helps answer her question, you know, when she first came up to the podium and spoke to us, what are we going to do? We have not had those conversations. So you are on point, Commissioner Campbell. Mr. Douglas again has agreed that he's friendly to an extension. So I think we need to consider that and move forward with what considering what Commissioner Campbell just said. Thank you.
So I would make the recommendation, if I may, even though we can't take any official action, I will give direction. I will give direction to our city manager to begin to speak to the individuals that sit up here, my fellow commissioners, to see if they have anything that they would like to see, or if not, I would like to have some renderings of what the possibilities could be if we were to remain as we are.
Okay. If I might add, the renderings of what could be with the Port Consolidated building are very lovely. What we don't have is the cost associated with actually accomplishing that, if that is the desire. So that's something that we can pursue as well. with
I
the
want you to
adequate time.
pursue and bring to me as much as you can in a time frame. I am at the point to where excuses, and I'm not saying that they are, but we've had time. And I don't believe that anything has been done within that time. But the mere fact that we're trying to bring it back so that we can do what we need to do as legislators to vet out and have everything or be operating, anyone will tell you I operate in complete transparency. If I sit before this group or if I sit before any group, it's a complete transparent thing for me. So again, bring what you can, and what you don't have the ability to bring, that's a conversation of that time. Let's not go into something with doubt, because you never know what you can. Bring us what you can. Let's stop the whole, we don't have this, we don't have that. You don't have that, you don't have it right now, but there's a possibility that you can. And that's just something that we as a whole have to take in consideration as we move forward. When you bring it back and you were not able to get that information, that's when we'll be able to have that conversation. But as of now, let's not talk about what we don't have, because we haven't tried.
So as we leave this, and I'm not saying we're leaving right this moment, but as we leave this meeting, and we cannot take action, do we want on the agenda agreement to move on with an extension? Because we need to do that if we're going to continue this process further beyond the next couple of weeks. It's a question. Okay, I didn't get the extension piece. I didn't hear that. Okay, so I guess that has to be on the agenda.
Okay.
For Thursday.
And
You mentioned about these other things,
that's,
on the E,
yes.
so are we gonna discuss that as well on Thursday? That your wishes as well? Or the first right of refusal, additional funds? Are we gonna continue those conversations? Is that what you're saying? Okay, all right.
That's a yes, right? Because I would hope so.
Yes.
Yes, that
Under
is.
item 2, right? Okay, thank you.
You also mentioned perhaps the city manager doing one-to-ones with each of us and discussing having us bring forward our thoughts on these items to him.
I mean, yes, I mean, it should
Or
have
do you
been
want a
done.
workshop or meeting beyond? That's all, because we're workshop meeting today.
That's fine. I mean,
Okay.
but I mean, that's what we gotta do.
I think so. And I'm just want to be clear.
Do you feel you have enough information? Because we have, it's not like we haven't spoken about the potential during this period. So I don't want the perception to be that we didn't talk about this. So we have had conversations.
Yes.
The only thing new that I'm aware of is the appraisal and the amount that the appraisal came out to be. And again, what I'm asking for, I think Commissioner Campbell as well, is the city part of the due diligence, Charlie. Your firm and everybody else did an excellent job, but there's still a part that we have not completed to make this agreement at this point. Well, we weren't gonna make it right now, but we're asking, our ask has not been delivered on our side, that's all. And we just putting it in the public.
Is there anything additionally that you would like to discuss or question or ask? Ms. McCaskill?
He just said it. I know that I've had discussions with the city manager regarding what we want in our vision. So it's out there and it's okay. I heard him commenting that we have agreeing to the fact that we have been having conversations. We just hadn't done anything about it. So nothing further, just to add to what he said. Commissioner.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I just add a little bit,
Sure,
please?
Ms. Potty.
So the city manager has given me direction as we were preparing our budget this year. And our budget thus far is reflecting that we're doing more programming at the River Center. So I just didn't want you to think that we did not hear you during the budgeting
It's one thing
process.
to hear us, but it's one thing to make sure that amongst making sure we operate in transparency and community. Again, we have people that's on both sides of the fence, and we have to make sure that we provide as much information to the community
Yes,
and
sir.
not just keep it amongst ourselves.
I agree.
And so even though it's in the budget, we still don't know what that money would be utilized for within that budget. There's several things that's in the budget that money just sit there and it do what it does. However, again, we want to make sure that we cover bases and present something to the community so that the community doesn't say that we're just sitting idle and we just want something to happen. I'm for it, but again, I want to make sure that we do what we need to do on our ends to operate in complete transparency.
Okay, thank you.
Anything additionally, Commissioner Campbell? Commissioner Jones?
No, that we just have the attorney bring back that opinion and make certain that we're in our legal boundaries of what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish.
So will you be able to, and that's kind of rushing things, have that research done by Thursday, or is that too short a time? Simply because we have to decide whether to cancel the contract or request an extension, and we need to know which direction to go.
I should have that done by Thursday.
Thank you. Is there anything additionally, or do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So
Thank you.